I am the Lonely Necron, and welcome to my basement. So recently, the drukhari returned to the channel, and so yeah, they've been gone for I think it's 9 months. I looked at it the other day; it might be 10 months now. There's a whole lot of new factions that have joined the basement area, so put them up against the Death Guard today and see how well they do. Got some new units. I guess they're not really new units; they're newly put together units for the Dark Eldar that I think will help them out. That I've kind of been bemoaning for the last couple of games. So yeah, Death Guard, Drukhari. Gonna play it on this 4x4 section of board here. Alright, so this is what we have for the Dark Eldar Force today. Mainly led by the Succubus. One group of 10 witches. A group of 10 Kabbalite warriors. 5 incubi. 2 groups of 5 scourges. 3 reavers of venom. A Talos. And these guys are 2 raiders. Alright, so the witches and the Kabbalites will each be, in one of the raiders apiece. The succubus will be riding around in the venom. The 2 groups of scourges will be in deep strike. And the incubi, I guess, will be the only infantry on the ground. I'm really hoping that with the addition of these guys in as both of them raiders instead of a raider and a ravager. But I'm hoping the transport at least will keep the Kabbalites alive. Hoping the open top thing will help too, so maybe this will help a lot. Alright, so this is what we have for the Death Guard. We have Typhus, who knows Plague Wind and Miasma of Pestilence, I think. I have a Biologist Purifier. 7 Plague Marines with a Blight Launcher and a Flail of Corruption in there. 5 Blight Lord Terminators. There's a Plague Spewer and a Blight Launcher in there. The Champion Terminator guy has the Combi Plasma Flamer. I say that with a question because I'm pretty sure that's how it worked out. 3 groups of 10 Poxwalkers and a Mephitic Blight Hauler. There's a Rhino. We're going to proxy this in as a Death Guard Rhino. And these Plague Marines and Typhus and the Biologist Purifier will all be riding around in the Rhino. The Terminators will be hanging out in their teleportarium thing. And these poor schmucks will be schlepping it out on the ground. Along with the Blight Hauler. Alright. Death Guard. All that's left now is to roll deployment, set these guys up, and have a really awesome time, because people of disease, Nurgle over here, and whatnot, and the Drukhari with their 98% poison weapons. This ought to be pretty dope. Alright, so the Death Guard won the deployment roll, and they chose this side of the table. So we've got all of the Poxwalkers on this end. Got the Proxy Rhino at the other far end there. And then kind of hiding out in between this raised platform and this energy type thing is the Mephitic Blight Hauler. So that puts Drukhari on this happy little side. So we got the Venom with the succubus in it. The Raider with the witches. The Incubi. Talos is just hanging out behind that area. The Reaver's behind there. The other Raider with the Cobbler Warriors. Everything else is just hanging out in deep strike for everybody. So unfortunately the Dark Eldar did not steal, so this will make that round 1 Death Guard movement. Alright, so everybody advanced. The Rhino and the Blight Hauler got pretty far. I wish I could say the same about the Poxwalkers, but with a base movement of 4, even with a 6-inch advance, which one of them got, it wasn't very far. Nobody's close enough to shoot. Nobody's close enough to charge. So really all these guys did was move this turn. So that'll make it the Dark Eldar turn for their movement. Alright, so the Incubi advanced forward pretty far. Everybody else just moved forward. They're ridiculously long range because it's a Dark Eldar vehicle. The Venom and the Raider, with the Succubus and the Witches respectively, moved up to get closer to the Rhino. And then the Reavers and the Cobalite Warrior laden Raider kind of heading over here towards the Poxwalkers. Pretty sure the Incubi are going to go after this Blight Hauler when they get the chance. So I guess the explanation I got from Reddit about why Drukhari don't have Psychers is a decent one, so I'll stop complaining about it and just start putting the Shadow Seer in with the Drukhari from now on, maybe? No, next game, perhaps. Either way, no Psycho powers for these poor bastards. So they're pretty dope shooting phase. Alright, so the Drukhari did a whole lot of shooting, and unfortunately, well, fortunately, the Death Guard made a whole lot of saves. A whole lot of disgustingly resilient, in fact. It was Chaos Dice have just straight been crazy. That 14 faction game, they were just going overtime. I think I used the Chaos Dice for like 11 of those factions. 10 of those factions, something like that. It was a lot. So they're probably a little still supercharged. So yeah, a whole lot of awesome saves. The Reavers managed to kill 2 of these Poxwalkers out of this front group. And the Raider actually managed to kill a Poxwalker from that far group over there. Nobody's charging because sadly nobody is close enough. These guys are all like an inch out of the 12 inches, so oh well. That does unfortunately make it the Death Guard turn. So we'll see what they can do. We'll see if these Poxwalkers can get any closer. Movement. Alright, so the Poxwalkers have gotten kind of closer, but still advancing with their crappy 4-inch move. The Blight Hauler made it up here in between these 2 containers, really close to the Incubi. And the Rhino has come up and, I mean, if it was a ship, it'd be preparing to do a broadside into the Raider, but just parking, I guess, getting ready for disembarking next turn. Ordinarily, we would do a Psyker phase for these guys, but Typhus is inside the Rhino, so we just do a shooting phase instead. Alright, I'm starting to like this Mephitic Blight Hauler. It killed off 2 of these Incubi pretty handily. Surprisingly enough, the Rhino actually did a couple points of damage to the Raider. That was nice. That'll take us to the charge phase. Alright, so this feels weird to do, but I'm going to charge the Blight Hauler into the Incubi. And hopefully this turns out well. The Blight Hauler definitely made his charge, managed to kill off one of the Incubi. The remaining Incubi and Claybex managed to do 3 points of damage to it, so they got a little bit of their own back. Alright, that'll put us up to the drukhari movement phase. Okay, so none of the original frontline grouping units here moved at all. They're all just staying in place. One group of Scourges came in on top of this, I don't know, it looks like a gantry platform kind of thing. And then the other group of Scourges came in on the ground to the left of them, behind this rhino. Okay, so the mandatory skipping of the Psyker phase, and then we'll do some drukhari shooting. They've been kind of okay at killing poxwalkers, not really, so maybe we'll see some better results now. So the Venom and the Raider over here did a little bit of damage to the Rhino. This Raider killed one of these poxwalkers, but the two groups of Scourges killed off the rest of the squad of poxwalkers that used to be over here. That makes me super happy. I mean, I did vote for Death Guard, but I like to see the Dark Eldar winning, or at least killing things. So for the charge phase, the Reavers are going to charge into the Blight Hauler that is already in combat with the Incubi. So the Reavers very absolutely made their charge. They did do a couple points of damage to the Blight Hauler. The Incubi weren't able to do anything. Sadly, the Blight Hauler did kill both of the Incubi. It is what it is. That does put it up to the Death Guard turn for movement. So all of the Plague Marines and the Biologist Purifier and Typhus have hopped out of the Rhino. The Rhino continued up to be behind the Blight Hauler. The smaller group of Poxwalkers moved forward, and the full group behind them advanced forward. So that'll take us to the Psychic phase. Typhus is going to attempt to manifest Plague Wind on the Scourges. Goes off on a 6. Gets it with a 7. Five miles on the unit, D6 per model. 6 up is a mortal wound. That's 1-6, so one of these Scourges takes a point of damage, which probably kills it, but I gotta double check. But that'll take us on over to the shooting phase. So Scourges do indeed only have 1 wound, so the Plague Wind from Typhus did indeed kill one of these Scourges. In the shooting phase, the Rhino killed 2 of these Scourges up here, which was super nice. The Plague Marines did a lot of damage to this Venom. It's not dead, but it's really, really close. So the charge phase. A small group of Poxwalkers that is barely still alive is going to charge into this Raider. These Plague Marines are going to charge into this Raider. This should be an interesting combat. So surprisingly enough, on the Poxwalker side, everybody made their charges. Poxwalkers did lose a couple in Overwatch. These poor Poxwalkers. They lost a couple in Overwatch. They actually lost one to the Raider. They didn't do any damage to the Raider. Plague Marines did a lot of damage to this Raider. Didn't take any damage of their own in return. And the Blight Hauler didn't do a single thing to the Reavers, they all actually made their saving throws, which was awesome. Dark Eldar hardly ever make their saving throws. But then the Reavers got him back and did a decent amount of damage in return, so that was nice. That will take us on over to the Dark Eldar turn for movement. I feel a little bit looking over the battlefield now after all of that movement. I feel a little bit like I did some weird complicated bait and switch kind of deal. So the Raider over here fell back from the Poxwalkers. The Reavers fell back from the Blighthauler. Talos is just going to hang out up there because it shoots stuff really well. So over here, the Venom, it kind of pushed the Succubus out the back and then flew over there. And then the Raider dropped its witches and fell back over there. Scourge-wise, these Scourges aren't going to move because Typhus is technically the closest model. The Scourges that were up on this gantry-looking thing are headed over towards the Poxwalkers. No Psyker phase. So, the drukhari shooting phase. So the Scourges here managed to kill off 3 of these Poxwalkers, just whittling them down slowly. The Venom, with all of its myriad of shots, managed to do a point of damage to the Blighthauler. The Witches did 1 point of damage to the Plague Marines. Typhus was a real boss and managed to save against the 3 wounds that he incurred. It was pretty awesome. So, charge phase. The Witches and the Succubus will charge into the Plague Marines. I'm looking forward to this finally. The Witches successfully managed to make their charge, as did the Succubus. Nobody died in Overwatch, thankfully. Between them, the Witches and the Succubus managed to kill off 2 of the Plague Marines, and 4 Witches died for the experience. Not a bad trade-off. So that'll put us into the Death Guard turn for movement. We'll start with our brave Poxwalkers first. This mostly full unit is heading towards the Scourges. The mostly dead unit is heading towards the Reavers. Both the Blighthauler and the Plague Marines are just going to hang out where they are. Typhus and the Biologist Purifier heading down towards the Scourges here. And the Blightlord Terminators popped into this corner over here. Hopefully it'll lay some waste to some drukhari units. So we'll go to the Psyker phase. Typhus. It's going to try and manifest a miasma of pestilence on these Plague Marines. Gets it on a 6. Roll the 7. So anything that attacks these guys in the attack, that's a hit phase. It's a -1 to hit them. So that should help against the Witches, so yay. So yeah, that'll be the happy times for the shooting phase. I did forget to move this Rhino, but ultimately in the end there's not a whole lot. Yeah, I'll just leave him there. I mean, yeah, he can shoot the Scourges when it comes to it, so I forgot to move him. I remembered just in time, but I guess I didn't remember just in time. I remembered a phase or too late. Either way, it's the shooting phase. Okay, so the Plague Marines, the only one that has a pistol is the aspiring champion, and he did manage to kill one of the witches. The Blight Hauler finished off the Venom and got the Raider down to 1. Happy times there. The Blight Lord Terminators did a point of damage to this Raider. That's pretty much all that happened for shooting. Charging, though. So these happy little guys are gonna attack the Reavers. These super happy little guys are gonna charge into the Scourges. Both Typhus and the Biologist Purifier will charge into the Scourges over here. And these guys are just gonna do their regular happy combat. Alright, let's see how much. Oh, this is gonna be awesome. I do really like the poison versus poison, the drukhari death guard thing. It's super nice. Alright, so that was super ridiculous, actually. Everybody made their charges. This grouping lost 1 Poxwalker in Overwatch. Managed to kill off 2 of the Scourges, lost a couple of their own Poxwalkers. These guys didn't do a single thing to the Reavers, but they did kill 2 of the Poxwalkers. Typhus by himself killed off the Scourges. The Purifier didn't even have a chance to attack. And these guys. So they killed off all of the witches, but the Succubus killed off 2 of the Plague Marines. So that was a little rough. Yeah, that definitely makes it the drukhari turn for movement. Okay, so the heavily wounded empty Raider has moved up to kind of hover above this. I guess I'll call this one a gantry also. It's like a raised walkway thingy. The Talus has moved down here on the ground, close to the Blight Hauler. The Succubus has chosen to stay in combat because, you know, she can. The Reavers will also stay in combat, as will the Solarite, the last remaining Scourge on the board. Let's see here. So the heavily laden Raider, with all 10 of the Cobbleites still in it, has moved over here to take on the Terminators. I'm hoping I made good choices here on placement on where these guys are going to shoot. We'll see what happens. I do have a little bit of faith in drukhari poison, so I guess we'll see. So the Talos managed to kill off the Mephitic Blight Hauler. It unfortunately did not explode. It would have been cool, you know. In my head, I was imagining already the acid and gore just spraying all over the place, starting to melt through the containers and whatnot, but it did not explode, so we just gently removed it from the table. The Talos then shot the Rhino and did a little bit of damage, like 1 happy little point. Solarite killed 2 of these Poxwalkers with her blast pistol. And that's really all that happened. Charge phase. Really no need to charge. Already in 3 combats right at the moment already, so we'll just deal with 3 combats and see what the Death Guard have at the end of it. Yeah, that's a lie. I'm gonna measure something real fast. Okay, that was a lie. So I will have a charge phase. The Talos is gonna charge into these Plague Marines. And then we'll deal with the 3 fights and whatever's left of the Plague Marines after that. I feel like this is some sort of weird underdog battle for the ages kind of thing. I don't know, it just kind of gives off a weird vibe sometimes. So, yeah, the Talos made it in. He killed 2 of the Plague Marines. The Succubus killed another one. And then the Talos managed to save against the Aspiring Champion's attacks. The Solarite killed off the last two poxwalkers that were here. The Reavers managed to kill off the one they were fighting with. So yeah, I do believe that makes it the Death Guard turn. Yeah, not a whole lot of them left, but yeah, it's definitely their turn. So this last Plague Marine is just going to hold its ground, waiting for Typhus to get there. Typhus is advancing his way towards the Talos. The Purifier is heading towards the Scourge. Rhino moved up to get shots on the Reavers and the Scourge. And the Terminators moved up a little bit to hopefully charge into the last Raider. So for Psyker powers, we're just going to do Smite on the Talos from Typhus. Gets it on a 5. That's a 5. D3 damage to the Talos. Does 3, which puts it down to 4. Alright. I'll give this guy a wound counter, and then we'll do some Death Guard shooting. Okay, so the Rhino is doing some good things here. Killed off the Solarite. Killed a Reaver. The Terminators did about 3 damage to this Raider. Starting to get it down a little bit. The Aspiring Champion used his Plasma Pistol to do a single point of damage to the Succubus. Alright, so charge phase. These Terminators are going to charge into the Raider. The Terminators were very successful in charging into the Raider. They did manage to actually destroy it, and in the ensuing explosion, one of the Cowboy Warriors lost his life exiting the vehicle in such a hurry. Yeah, that's definitely tripped over his gun and decapitated himself on the hatch or something. Plague Marine over here failed to do anything except die gracefully. So yeah, that was, funny on at least one end. On the other end, they did destroy a Raider by charging into it, so I don't think I've ever seen that before. Yeah, with all of that being the way it is, that'll make it the Drukhari turn. So, movement. The Cavalette Warriors have decided that they want to stay there and face down the Terminators. The Raider is also going to stay up here on its perch because it can still see the Rhino. Not wanting to wait around, the Talos and the Succubus have moved over towards Typhus here. The Reavers have come in between the two containers to shoot at the Putrefier. I started moving this way because I thought there was more to talk about, but that's all the Drukhari out right now because everyone else is dead. Okay, so that'll put us at Drukhari shooting. This last remaining 1 health only Raider up here did 3 points of damage to the Rhino. Still isn't dead, but it's getting there. The Cavalite Warriors killed off the Terminator. There were a lot of shots fired from the Talos and the Typhus, but he saved against all of them because he's a big beefy guy. So then the charge phase, which will be the Talos and the Succubus and the Typhus. There's just something in the air about this new year. I know a lot of people have had a lot of calamities strike their life in various ways. Yeah, it's just been a weird thing. It's kind of been expressing itself in the dice rolls, which is why I mention it. The game I did, I think the last game before this one, the 14 faction game, the dice were really, really oddly behaving the entire experience. For the Chaos dice, that makes sense, but for the Eldar Drukhari and then the Necron dice, those are only used for one faction for the most part. I mean, Eldar and Drukhari share the yellow dice, and Necrons are strictly green, and everyone else uses the white dice. But yeah, my point of all of this is that somehow, they made their charges, and he killed both of them in the melee experience. So yeah, Chaos Dice acting up. So yeah, that'll take us to the Death Guard turn. Movement. Okay, I feel we're getting down to the nitty gritty, almost end of the game kind of stuff here. Typhus and the Putrefier have just moved up towards the Reavers here. The Rhino has moved up and around behind the Coblite Warriors, and the Terminators are just going to stand their ground and do some awesome things. So for Psychic Powers, we're just going to do the Miasma Pestilence, hopefully on these guys right here. Gets about to 7, so 1d6 per model in the unit. And the 6 up is a mortal wound. No mortal wounds. Okay, fair enough. We can do that. The Death Guard shooting phase. The Rhino did manage to kill off the Raider. I was super impressed by that. The Terminators killed 4 Cobbleites. So the charge phase. The Typhus and the Putrefier will charge into the Reavers. And the Terminators and the Rhino will charge into the Cobbleites, kind of like a squashing pincer method kind of thing. So, see what this looks like here in a couple minutes. That actually worked out a whole lot better than I anticipated it was going to. The Putrefier did not make the charge, but the Rhino, the Terminators, and Typhus did. Nobody actually took any damage in Overwatch, which was surprising as hell. Typhus managed to kill off both of the Reavers. And the Terminators actually killed off the remaining Cobbleites. The Rhino was just there to be there, I guess. Either way, the Death Guard win. So this was a fun game. The idea of the poison against disease and rot fucking guys just tickled my fancy, I guess. So if you made it to the end of the video, I do appreciate it. Weather's been kind of crazy lately, so it's been hard to get videos out, but working on that. So got some interesting experiments in mind for the upcoming weeks. So yeah, good times are coming. It's always a good time, but extra good times are coming. So thanks and have a good day.